Mhm. Hello, good evening. Good evening. I tell you what a day today. Oh gosh. Anyway, I'm so tired. I want to go to bed around. I want to go to bed, but there you go. But anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome. I have got the lovely Beth here. You know, the wonderful, wonderful Beth. I mean, hello, Beth. How are you?
Stop it. I am great, thanks. Sorry, it's been a while because I love doing this show, so it's really nice to be back.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I've been off for about a few months because I needed a break. It was during like Monday to Friday, and oh gosh,
You were a victim of your own success, I think, Steve, weren't you?
victim of my own success.
Yeah,
Yeah, but then then it was other things too, and I just needed a break.
absolutely.
Anyway, welcome back. If you've got any questions, don't forget we've got a new thing here now where you can actually contact us on Facebook or the email, which is on the studio site. And if you want to ask questions live, yes, live, we can do that as well. Beth, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, I just thought I might check in with everybody about how their New Year's resolutions are doing. Remember those New Year's resolutions?
Oh yeah, they're gone. Yeah,
So here we are, like not even mid-Feb. But I think a lot of us, let's be honest, we make all these New Year's resolutions and it goes really well for a couple of
yeah,
weeks, maybe. And we think, yeah, I am cracking it this time. Oh, yeah, this is happening. And then just kind of life happens, or, things change a bit, or, there's dieting, there's always like some sort of celebration or something. It's like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, I want to go along to that meal, and yes, okay, it's in a pizzeria, that kind of thing. And then before we know it, we look back and think, oh my God, I'm right back where I was. And sometimes we can even end up in a worse place than we were before, which makes absolutely no sense because we thought it all through, we worked out how we were going to do it, we got buy-in, and we had it totally figured out and we started doing it. And then we have no idea why it hasn't happened. And of course, the culprit, as always, I've spoken about this before, is our unconscious mind, which is much, much more powerful than our conscious mind. You could say that the conscious mind is the goal setter. So it thinks of what it wants to do, but it's actually the unconscious mind that's the goal getter. So the trick is to be aligned with your unconscious mind when you are setting a goal. And again, as I've said before, but it's always worth reminding ourselves about this. Your unconscious mind still thinks we're back in the Stone Age and you could be killed at any point, die horribly, poisoned, whatever. And so it really just wants you to keep on doing everything exactly as you've done it. Now, the way you've been doing things or the relationships that you're in may be making you unhappy. The job you're in might be making you bored and you want to get a better one and go and ask for a pay rise or something like that. But your unconscious mind doesn't care about any of that. It doesn't really care about the quality of your life. It just cares that you're alive. And so it wants you to do exactly the same things as you've always been doing because you're not dead yet, essentially. Those things haven't killed you. And that's the sort of basic level that it thinks in. And so, unfortunately, we can have as many brilliant ideas as we want with our conscious mind. We can read as many self-help books and watch as many aspiring sort of Eventbrite webinars and things as we like about where we want to go with our lives, what we want to change, what we want to do for ourselves. But basically, because the unconscious mind is much, much more powerful, it will always prevail. So as I say, the secret is to get the unconscious mind on board. And the way to do that is to kind of convince it that the place you want to get to, the new thing you want to do, or the change you want to make, is actually going to make you safer, not less safe. And you know, it's just trying to protect us. It's like it can be like a big ferocious dog at times. You know, it's just trying to protect us, but to everybody else, including us, it can look like, you know, a pain in the ass or a threat, or, you know, something that's constantly threatening where we want to go, stopping us from getting there. So it wants to keep us away from pain and ideally drive us towards pleasure. So when we're setting a goal for ourselves, when we're thinking about that New Year's resolution, it's so important to paint a wonderful picture for the unconscious mind that is full of pleasure and safety, if you see what I mean, right? So if you do want to get that promotion, right, your unconscious mind will go, whoa, okay, so you might change workplaces, but you know, what if you can't? What if that job doesn't work out? What if that job turns out to be worse? You know, what if your boss is awful? You know, you've had that experience in the past. Remember that? We don't get into that again. Why on earth would you do that kind of thing? So it's about getting very clear on and literally creating a picture in your mind, you know, kind of, so it's kind of like a SMART goal. You probably heard of SMART goal. So it's like, so say you want to achieve this by the end of the year. So it's 5th of December, 2023, and I am sitting in my new office. And for the first time, I feel valued. I feel calm. I'm smelling coffee. I'm hearing the voices of my friendly teammates. I'm really looking forward to a meeting I'm going to have with my boss, who's really supportive and sees all my skills and strengths. You know, it's got a fantastic benefits package, and so there's more safety and security for me. I'm more valued. I feel much better emotions here than I ever did in the last job. And you basically literally have to kind of create a visualize it. Just bear with me a sec. My cat's just being a pain in the... For some reason, she seems to know whenever I'm doing a live, and then she's like, "Oh, I want to come in. I want to be part of it. Come in then." No, I think she's just passing through. Oh, honestly. I've got one of these middle rooms, you know, you sort of walk through. And yeah, anyway, that's the cat's for you. So sorry about that. Never worked with children or animals. Okay, and also think about your motivation. So most of us, let's say we want to lose weight, as an example, right? So when I want to lose weight, I'm like, so for a start, the word loss, right? So your unconscious mind doesn't like loss because losing something is generally considered bad, okay? So you have to think more in terms of, I want to feel fitter. I want to wear my favorite dress, you know, and it's kind of, where are you looking? So a lot of us, we're trying to get away from where we are now, right? So I'm at like 14.5 stone again, and I want to get away from that. I want to weigh less so that I can get into my clothes again. But if I don't set a goal for myself, like, so I want to be 13 stone, what will happen is I'll lose a bit of weight, enough weight to get into that dress. And then I'll go, oh, great. So fine. I've lost enough to wear that dress. That's all fine, right? So it might not be 13 stone. It might be 13.5 stone or whatever. And when I've got that dress on, I'll be like, oh, I can stop dieting now. That's all fine. I can start eating pizza and cake again. And then of course, what's going to happen? I'm just going to start putting it on again. But if I actually say where I want to get to is, 13 stone, so that I can start running again, and so I can wear, you know, an even better dress or whatever that is, and have a visualization of that, then even as I'm losing the weight, as the weight's coming off, I'm still looking at where I'm going. So even though I'm losing some weight, I'm like, great, I'm getting closer to my goal. rather than just kind of, I don't want to be here anymore. And a lot of us, particularly with wealth, if you're motivated, we call it towards and away from motivation. If what you're doing is trying to back away from a bad situation, right, rather than head happily towards a good situation, right, what happens is you're always still looking at that bad situation. So if it's about money, it's kind of like, oh, I haven't really got enough to pay the bills and stuff at the moment. I want to get up there where I feel a bit more comfortable. So again, not very clear goal set. But even if you work really hard and get, to that point where you actually are more wealthy on paper, if you're still looking at and focusing on the fear of not having enough, then you're not going to enjoy this wealth. Do you know what I mean? There's people who are really quite wealthy, but they're constantly still worrying about, yes, but what if the interest rates go to, what happens if what happens if the bank crashes? And it's because they're looking at what they don't want instead of focusing on what they do want, right? And so again, going back to the unconscious mind, if this way is pain and that way is pleasure, as long as you're facing this way, it's going to be harder for you to achieve your goal because you're still looking at something negative, and the unconscious mind's like, oh, why are we even doing this? Why are we even trying to make this change? So it's about painting a really appealing picture for yourself, like literally visualize how great it's going to feel when you've made the change, how safe and happy and valued and secure you're going to feel, all those kind of words, right? And also be facing towards that positive thing rather than backing away from a negative situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've got Angela here, and she's saying to me, what does the conscious mind consist of?
Well, basically what it is it can process about 7 bits of information per second, and it's where our language is. It's where we are able to grasp concepts. So it's kind of a learning brain. And essentially it's the brain that developed that took us from being apes into the sophisticated human species. And it was things like language, communication skills, logic, the ability to imagine things. Animals, so they've got just the unconscious mind. That's the original mind we had. There's no point asking an animal what time it is. They'll just say, well, it's now. They've no concept of past, present and future, that sort of thing. So the conscious mind can do amazing things, and it's why we've been able to develop to this level. The problem is that we're still running both the brains at the same time. And while the conscious mind can, process about 7 pieces of information per second, the unconscious mind can process about 11 million per second. So it's much more powerful. And it's also, this is why it's important when we're changing habits, is when we've learned to do something. So we do that with the conscious mind. So let's say, when we learned to walk, so, we're trying to walk, we fell over again on our nappy and we got back up and we were holding onto the sofa for a while. And then as soon as we learned to do that, right, what happens is we then send that to the unconscious mind and it runs it automatically for us. So when we get up out of a chair, we don't have to go, right, okay, so I've got to sort of lean forward, I've got to put my weight into my feet, and then I've got to sort of push off, and then I've got to put one leg in front of the other. We just automatically do that. And it runs all our automated processes, like it makes our blood flow, it makes our heart beat, it makes babies grow inside us, all of those sorts of things. And so when we're trying to change a habit, say we've always done something a certain way, right? If we're consciously trying to do it a different way, if the old way is still in the unconscious mind, it'll still automatically run that, right? So we can use our willpower, which isn't actually very powerful, to try and do it the new way. But one day we'll forget about that. And the unconscious mind will be like, oh, what we're doing? Eating? Okay, carbs, And it's like, oh my God, sometimes you do it and it's like, oh, well, I've done it again. Why? I told myself I wasn't going to do this, but why am I doing it? Why am I still doing it? And it's because the unconscious mind is still running that old program, that automated program. It's like, if you're driving, you just moved house and you know that you've moved to a new house, right? But somehow you've just driven to the old one again. It's because even though obviously you're intending to drive back to your new home, you're unconscious, you become unconscious while you're driving, because driving again is an automated thing. Once we've learned to drive, we're not thinking, right, okay, first gear, clutch, mirror, we're just doing it automatically and thinking about other things. So because in our unconscious mind, it still thinks we're living at the old address, we rock up there and it's like, what am I doing here? I don't even live here anymore. So that's what the unconscious mind does. That's where that resistance comes from, that inertia. And so, the kind of coaching I do using NLP, it's very good for actually getting into the unconscious mind and changing the programming there so that you actually can change the habits and just run those automatically.
Yeah.
I hope I've answered Andrew's question there.
Yeah, you are. Does consciousness create reality?
That's an interesting one. I'm not sure I understand the question. So the thing is that we all project, right? So in NLP, we say perception is projection. Right. So what we see is our reality, right? But our reality is unique to us. And it's made up of not just what we're physically seeing and hearing, but those things are filtered by things like our culture, our values, our upbringing, our past experiences, things like that, right? So I don't know, what would it be? Some people might, they might perceive it might be very real for them that flying in an aeroplane is really dangerous, and that's their reality. They know it's real because when they've tried to get on an aeroplane, their heart goes faster and they breathe and they panic and they have to get off again. And because that's their reality, that means that when they go on holiday, they have to go on a driving holiday, or they have to stay in the UK or whatever, right? And that's very real to them. No one would say, oh, you're just making that up, you're just putting that on. That is their reality, okay? But that's based on a belief they have that flying is dangerous, right? Another person standing right next to them could get on the plane and be really happy and relaxed, because their belief is, their reality is that air travel is fantastic for helping you to see parts of the world that you could never see on an ocean liner or in a car, because it would just take forever to get there. And so what we see is, we don't see the world how it is, we see the world how we are.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So definitely.
Going on in our head that filters what we see. Have you heard that phrase, through a glass darkly? We are filtering what we see. And there are, this is all gratitude practice, that sort of thing. You can both be looking at the same thing and interpret it completely differently based on who you are and the experiences you've had. Right.
Okay. How many states of consciousness do humans have? Sorry about the tough questions here.
No, well, I mean, they're really good questions. Well, so you mean like so there's a scientific sense where obviously you can be conscious, you can be subconscious as in asleep, and then obviously you can be unconscious. And it's not very helpful, is it? The words seem to be, a bit confusing, because like we've got these two minds, the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. I call it the unconscious mind, and so does Freud, for instance. But there are some people that call that the subconscious mind. Okay, so they're descriptions of what's going on for us neurologically, right? But in terms of how we are in the world in the day, we're either awake, we're asleep, or we're in an unconscious state. But then, so that's kind of, I don't know, medical, physical states. But then, of course, there are spiritual states for those of us that are into, things like manifesting, things like energy work, the kind of self-improvement where we realize that we need to get our mindset into like a higher state of being, where, we're focusing more on positive things, what's going on inside, rather than worrying about what's going on outside, which we can't control all those in those sorts of ways. So in that way, you know, that there are definite levels of spiritual state as well. So, spiritual consciousness. And a lot of people, you know, philosophers and things sort of say that a lot of humanity is kind of asleep. It is trudging in an unconscious way through life. And that's part of why there is so much stress, there is so much unhappiness, there is so much war. And a lot of us need to wake up and get a better understanding of what's actually going on for us, you know, of the fact that the only reality we have is now. The past has gone, the future doesn't exist yet. But most of us, we walk around thinking about the past and the future all the time and completely miss the present, which is the only reality we actually have.
That's me. I do that. Definitely.
We all do to some degree, yeah.
Yeah, we do that. Can we actually, with consciousness, can we actually be awake?
Well, again, so there's awake, physically awake. Like, hopefully you and I are awake, and hopefully the people watching this are awake. I'm hoping I'm not that boring. But in terms of, you know, spiritual awakeness, I mean, you know, what would you say about your religious practice? You know, do you feel like kind of, you know, your eyes have been opened, you know, when you came into the church?
Yeah, different things. Yeah. But what can I say? I just got used to it, so it was different because I had to change from one life to another life, even though I'm still in my same body. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is when people describe it as a light bulb moment as well, don't they? You know, my eyes were opened, or the veil was whisked away, or had a light bulb moment, something to do with light and vision, you know, and it's kind of waking up like, oh, I get it. I see it now in a way that I didn't see it before. So, you know, that kind of awake, I think, is not just possible, but I think it's absolutely necessary for a lot of us to start waking up and understanding the true nature of what it is to be alive.
Yeah, I've got something here. It says what was it? You got to bear with me because I've got a horrible cold at the moment.
Oh, bless you.
To step outside, consciousness would be the same as stepping outside existence.
To step outside consciousness would be the same as to step outside
Assistance.
Assistance or systems?
Yeah. No, assistance.
I'm not sure I really understand the question. What do you think?
Hang on. So what I'll do is I'll send it to you. Hang on. So, but in the meantime, when you kind of like see what would happen is if you kind of like you're awake and all of a sudden you think about something, but later, about 2 hours later, you go to bed and you dream of the same thought that you dreamt around about 2 hours ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something a lot of us experience fairly regularly. And the reason for that is that another one of the jobs of the unconscious mind is to process and to file the experiences we've had that day. And because it's not a literal thing, because it's more of a symbolic thing, it creates a crazy little story where that person's in it, or that thing happens, or that object is suddenly in it. But it might be like 10 years before, or a different color, or, you know, something crazy happens with it. And it's your brain, that's the processing part. So it's like kind of your unconscious mind going, so this happened today. That's interesting. Let me risk assess that for whether that could be some sort of risk, or could that be some sort of benefit. And it basically plays with it. It creates the dream as a kind of scenario, sort of like a metaphor. Kind of let's run this. What would happen if this happened and that happened? So it fiddles about, and you have all sorts of crazy adventures at night. And then it basically files that away, kind of like, okay, so we've had that experience and we think this about it. I'm filing it here, you know, as, I don't know, a good experience, a bad experience, something that could be useful, something that we want to stay away from in the future. And that's the unconscious mind's job, because, as I say, it's all about protecting us. So the unconscious mind never sleeps. You know, you were asking, someone was asking about sleep and awake. The unconscious mind never, ever sleeps. It's awake for the whole of your life until you die. And that's because, again, it's protecting you. You know, that whole, you know, the hairs were prickling on the back of my neck, or I just had this sense of your unconscious mind. Even when your conscious mind's gone to sleep, your unconscious mind is still awake, protecting you. It's listening to what's happening around the house and things. And that's why you will wake up quickly if there's something that seems to be perhaps, you know, going bump in the night and a possible danger.
Gosh. Yeah. I've been having problems with sleep lately.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
No, my wife, what she does is she took the remote control off me, right?
She what, sorry?
She took the remote off me.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And because what I do is I go to bed sometimes and I can't sleep. So we got in our bedroom, we got a television, and I just turns it on, and I listens to TV until around about 3:30 in the morning, say.
Uh-huh.
Right? And she said, "You're looking tired, you're looking worn out." And she said, "Right, you're not watching no more telly. When you go to bed, I'm going to hide the remote, you know."
Right.
And the trouble is, I haven't been sleeping, but then during the day, I'm so tired, I'm so ragged, I can't be bothered, you know.
Yeah,
And
it's a tough
sometimes,
one.
yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really tough. And unfortunately, you know, you can get quite easily into a sort of vicious cycle where, you know, the more awake you are at night and the less sleep you get, the tireder you are in the day. So you're kind of craving a nap in the day and all that. Essentially, somehow your circadian rhythm has gone out of whack. Like every teenager, you know, that you know, their circadian rhythms are out of whack, which is why they're all zombies in the morning. When they're on the way to school, and why they're wide awake at 11 o'clock at night. So yeah, essentially, it's basically going to be a bit by bit process of gradually claiming it back. So what would it be like if you changed things by half an hour a day or a week? So let's say you do you have a nap in the day or anything?
Do a nap during the day? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. So it's about gradually reducing the naps in the day, right? And gradually reducing the watching of telly and stuff in the night, right? It's giving and taking away so that you're putting the balance back. But basically, you're not going to be able to do it overnight, if you excuse the pun, and also, I'm afraid the unconscious mind doesn't like any sort of restriction or kind of telling off. So I'm sure that your wife is doing absolutely what she thinks best. And I'm sure that your conscious mind, you agree with what she's doing. You can see that what she's doing makes sense. But your unconscious mind is not going to like that one bit. No. And it will start rebelling. It, you know, even if you don't want to, you know, it doesn't like being told what to do, and it will resist. So the best thing to do, I would suggest, and I don't want to fall out with Michelle here, but the best thing I would suggest is to just do it by increments. Because let's face it, that's how it happened in the first place, wasn't it? Maybe it was because you were ill, or maybe just gradually, maybe there's something particular that you wanted to catch up with in the evenings, or sort of, and just gradually you found yourself there.
Yeah.
And the only way back needs to be the same thing, but in reverse. But if you set yourself a target, you know, so you can actually set your phone and everything to sort of shut down and not disturb you, you know, sort of a little bit earlier. Half an hour a day might be too quick. You know, it might have to be half an hour for the first week, maybe then try an hour for the second week, but that might take longer than a week for you to sort of really get used to it. But I'm afraid, there isn't one that I know of in terms of quick fixes.
Yeah, I'm on, because I also have sleep apnea, and
Right.
so I got to wear this damn machine night times, and and Michelle sometimes like knocks me and says, it's loud, you know, can you do anything with it? And I said, well, I can always check it out the window or something. Yeah, and then she says, shut your mouth, you know, and things like that or something like that. If I shut my mouth, I'll die. But she says, oh, it's loud, I can't go with it, things like that. She says, shut your mouth, you know, things like that. And then she'll just say, right, that's it. then should just go. I don't know. Should just turn over, don't you, and just
Mm.
try to get some sleep and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And,
tricky. It's tricky for both of you. You know, if there is some sort of physical issue, then,
yeah,
you know, perhaps you're both losing sleep, and just be mindful of that and see if you can stay kind to each other. Because when you're both tired, suddenly you can find yourself snapping at each other or running out of patience, and that can kind of become a vicious cycle as well. And it's kind of like,
yeah,
well, if the other person would just do this or just change or just get better at that, then everything would be fine. But unfortunately, we can't get the other person to do what we want them to do. All we can do is make our own changes and kind of do what we can
yeah,
do to improve the situation and trust our partner to be
yeah.
working on the same thing.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I'm lucky because I got a wonderful wife.
Yeah.
I'm only saying that because she's there. But and it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. But
Woohoo!
woo, yeah, one flower, that would be it. Anyway, cheeky. But the trouble is with any unconscious mind, not the conscious, but the unconscious, could that make you in a state of denial? Could it make you? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Well, the state of denial can come from a mismatch between what the unconscious mind believes and what the conscious mind believes, right?
Yeah,
So often it's a tactic that the unconscious mind is, because again, what it does is it wants us to be happy and healthy, and any bad stuff that's happened to us, occasionally it will present it to us and go, should we work on this now? You're ready to maybe start looking at this, healing it, and letting it go, and sort of moving forward. And sometimes when we're not ready, it's like, no. And we will start numbing out and we'll be like, no, I'm not looking at that. No, that doesn't exist. That wasn't even a problem. I'm fine with that. I'm over that. I've moved on. It's okay, you know. And it's a defense mechanism that, you know, that the conscious mind deploys when the unconscious mind knows something. Have you ever felt that, where it's kind of, you're telling yourself something till you're blue in the face, or telling somebody else something, but you know deep down.
You argue with yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
But you don't win. You don't win, do you? Not really.
No. The unconscious mind is relentless. It never sleeps, you know. And the whole art of, you know, good mental health really is understanding about how the unconscious mind works, how to get on its good side, sort of how to get it working for you. As I say, it's a goal getter and it wants to protect you. It wants you to be happy and healed and, you know, feeling great. But it needs clear commands, you know, and it needs consistent messages, like these visualizations. You know, you need to keep running them and go, no, this is what we want, go after that. It's like, again, it's like training a dog with the unconscious mind. But if we as humans understood more what an amazing, powerful piece of kit we've got, and how to make that work for us, you know, a lot of this stuff would be resolved. But just the way modern culture's gone, you know, there's a huge kind of worship of the conscious mind. You know, we worship stuff like, you know, academia and knowledge and science and discovery and facts and, you know, all of that stuff. But, you know, that's just all information. It's not our actual experience. While we can be reading knowledge and facts and things, we're still feeling things. We're still experiencing things. And that's all the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is kind of, somebody asked about reality. You know, the unconscious mind is the reality of what we're feeling and thinking inside. And, you know, feelings are like an irrepressible force, aren't they? You know, if you've got negative emotions, it can drive you to do all sorts to try and get rid of those emotions, to not feel those things anymore.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah. Before I go, tell everybody about how they can contact you and information. I see that you've gone down to another way up with your work now, ain't you? Is that right?
What do you mean? I'm doing.
You're doing what was it? I was reading something the other day. You've gone down to another route about your work. You've
Well, I'm doing all sorts. So I'm still working with the military charity to help
Yeah.
serving military personnel and veterans recover from trauma and build resilience. I'm still working with business clients as a business consultant, helping them to make profitable businesses, even in a recession. I'm still working with my clients to help them heal from trauma, phobia, to feel more confident, to feel happier, to get what they want in life. That's the life coaching. And my latest thing that I'm doing is I started training again, which is great. I used to be a teacher way back in the early
Did
90s.
you?
Yeah. And so I've started designing and running training courses now in sort of health and wellness, confidence, communication, all the stuff I love. And just as another way of getting it out there and helping people.
Wow.
So lots of fiddles, lots of strings to my bow.
Wow. Yeah, I thought it was something extra that you were doing, and I was thinking, when is she going to kind of like slow it down a bit and everything?
Oh yeah, well, I will at some point.
Yeah.
But I love what I do. I love getting out there. So if anybody wants to find out more about what I do, you can find me at www.movingforwardconsultancy.com. But you can also find me under Beth Penfold on LinkedIn. And I've got a Facebook page, which is called Moving Forward on Facebook. So yeah, come and find me and let's have a chat.
Right, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you
Bye-bye,
so much.
lovely.
Bye bye.